Badrinarayan Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
And mine to you, Prabhu.
How are you today?
By Krishna's grace, I'm just fine.
Good.
And seeing you, I feel even better.
Hare Krishna. I feel the same way about seeing you. So let me just start with a little introduction to our audience. Of course, this is a presentation coming from the GBC Strategic Planning Team. We, as a group, are serving ISKCON in the GBC in a couple of different ways. One is to bring attention to the terrible disease of this COVID-19. And we want to encourage all of our audience to practice safe practices, wearing a mask, keeping social distancing, washing hands, not having extensive meetings in small closed rooms like that. But the second thing that we do is we have a series of interviews of different leading devotees around the world to just illuminate various spiritual concepts. Tomorrow is the disappearance day celebration of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we all recognize him as ISKCON's preeminent Siksha Guru. And so we've invited 9 devotees, of which you've been very kind to us to be one of those 9, to illuminate and share your realizations about how Srila Prabhupada is ISKCON's Siksha Guru, preeminent Siksha Guru. And I think that maybe we could just start off briefly with a couple of quick comments. You're actually a famous devotee, but still, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
But go ahead.
No. You're a GBC member. You're a sannyasi. You're a guru. You have been a GBC member for what, 25 years, some long
37
time?
years and counting.
37 years, oh my Lord. Congratulations.
I've got the gray hairs to confirm it.
Anyway, I know a little bit about your background. I remember you taking me at the Detroit temple, walking me into Tulsi Devi's room, which was on the south side where the sun could shine on her, and spending some time with me telling me about Tulsi. Tell me more, a little bit more, briefly about yourself, and then we'll get into the main topic of our preeminent Siksha Guru.
You mentioned Detroit. One of the times Prabhupada visited, I was the temple president of a little college preaching center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we had probably about 10 devotees living at the temple. And on a morning walk, Prabhupada was walking in Belle Isle Park. And so I asked Prabhupada, what does it mean to be one of your temple presidents? And actually, I was fishing for a compliment. I was thinking that Prabhupada would say, you're one of my leaders on the front line. You're one of the generals in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army. I thought he would say something like that. Far from it. Prabhupada put his cane down and he sized me up. And then he said, it means, because I asked him, what does it mean to be one of your temple presidents? He said, what it means is, if anything goes wrong, it's your fault. Which was really great instruction. So, and I appreciate I'm GBC and this, that, but the real thing is that it means if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. And things do go wrong. So please, devotees, I'm pedaling as fast as I can. I wish I could do better. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. So I met Prabhupada. There was a Back to Godhead magazine, and I got it from one of the devotees on Sankirtan. And it had on the back of the Back to Godhead magazine, there was a black and white pictures of all these different icons and philosophers and prominent cultural figures. It had from Bob Dylan to Socrates, all in black and white. And the caption said, all of these people know the problems. And then there was a color picture of Srila Prabhupada in the middle, and it said, so all these people know the problems. Only this man knows the answers.
Mm.
And it just struck me because I was, a young man and I had so many questions about life. And it was, so I thought, well, what does he have to say? So it's a long story, but the short version is I had so many questions in life. And when I met Prabhupada, I got Prabhupada's book. I got Bhagavad Gita. And it was like, as I think Thoreau says, the timeless voice of the ages spoke to us. So when I read, or do you know those old movies, that and every time a point is made, dong, the bell rings, another page turns, dong. Every question I had was answered by reading Prabhupada's books. I used to think with Buddhists, isn't the desire to become desireless a self-centered desire? Seems kind of like an endless loop there. Desire to become desireless is a self-centered desire. And you can't deny desire, what to do. And Prabhupada said the devotees have no desire. Still, they have transcendental desire to serve their Lord in loving service. And I thought, bam, there's the answer. How to engage, Rishikesh, Rishikena. So my point is that I met Prabhupada via his books, and then I used to avoid the devotees. I don't want to get into my life. I thought they were Buddhists. I didn't know what they were doing, and but somehow or other, I came to the temple. I thought, hey, good vegetarian meal. I can sit through anything for a good meal. I was a vegetarian, went with my brother, and I saw Bhagavad Gita. And I said, oh, you teach from this? I thought there's some kind of eclectic, sometimes Tibetan Book of the Dead, sometimes Aquarian Gospel, maybe sometimes they teach the Bhagavad Gita. And I was reading Prabhupada's Gita every day. So they said, no, this is not just some sidebar. This is our cornerstone. I said, oh, I'm saving my money. I want to go to India and I want to find this man. They said, you don't have to go to India. He's in Los Angeles. Prabhupada was writing Krishna book and Nectar of Devotion. So I thought, hey, can I go? Devotee said, no, we only have a motorcycle. That's all they had was an old motorcycle. I said, well, I got a car. You could go with me. So the next Sunday, we all piled up and went to Los Angeles, the old La Cienega Temple, and Prabhupada gave the lecture. And then, and that has made all the difference. That's how I met Prabhupada in 1969. And 1970, I moved into the temple, Los Angeles, Laguna Beach. Sorry, I moved into Laguna Beach. Then a couple months later, I went up to LA, and Prabhupada was giving class every day, every morning, Bhagavatam class. So that's saved me. That's the actual situation. I was a complete fool, and I was floating in the material with no idea what the purpose of life is, the answers to the questions. And I met Srila Prabhupada, and it was the best. Every day I become more grateful how I met Srila Prabhupada. I don't know how I had the clarity of thought to become his disciple, but it's the best move I ever made. So that's enough about me.
Thank you so much. Wonderful story. You and I shared a little bit ahead of this time together on our video streaming. And you mentioned that you have a number of stories that you wish to tell that, put together, start to share your realizations and illuminations on how Srila Prabhupada is our preeminent Siksha Guru in ISKCON. So we'll do this. Instead of so much like an interview, we'll just do it a little bit more like a Bhagavatam class. In a moment, I'll get off the screen and you keep talking. I, on the other hand, will be sitting back on the sidelines listening. And, if you want to stop and bring me back at any point, that's fine. We
Oh, I
usually
will.
go for about 35, 40 minutes. So you kind of keep track of the clock a little bit. We can go as late as 5 minutes to 8 or so. And maybe we can even run a little bit more if our administrator, Shakshi Gopal Prabhu, who's administrating this, allows us. So pretty much go ahead, Maharaj. Take it from there and tell us what your thoughts are on this topic.
You said about my realizations, and I saw the list of all the other speakers. So I'm, feeling like, the four-headed Brahma when he was assembled by all the other. So I feel like a mouse amongst a lot of elephants. So I don't know about realization, but I can tell some stories. A bird flies in the sky as high according to its ability. So I'll narrate a few things, and hopefully they will elaborate at least on the point. But I
Very
did
good.
want to say I was reading last night, thinking about this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila, and it's chapter 12, starts with verse 66, and it's describing the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it comes to the point of Advaita Charya, and it's using the analogy that Lord Chaitanya is a trunk of a tree, and then there's branches and sub branches, and on those branches and sub branches you get fruits, you get flowers. So it compares because the branches and sub branches are connected to the trunk, therefore they're nourished, they're vitalized. These are the words that the Krishnadas Kaviraj uses. And then he says that some of the followers of Advaita Charya deviated from the teachings of Advaita Charya. They broke off. And you can picture a tree and all the branches and sub branches. And if you break a branch off, what happens? It doesn't produce more fruits. It doesn't produce more flowers. It withers up and it dries up. And the Krishnadas Kaviraj uses the word they become useless. So why does this matter? Why does this whole topic matter? Now, other devotees will speak eloquently, I'm sure. So in my own little bit that I can add, why does it matter to our lives? And it matters to our lives, and the stories I'm going to share with you elaborate on this point, that we are connected. Srila Prabhupada is our preeminent Siksha guru. If we deviate from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, his standard, his message, we become useless. We become like the branch that's broken off. It's because of the connection to the branch, to the trunk, that actually that branch produces fruits and flowers. So because ISKCON is connected to Srila Prabhupada, because we as individuals are connected to Srila Prabhupada and following Srila Prabhupada's teachings, we will be successful in our personal spiritual life. ISKCON will grow, it will bear fruit. So that's the point. It matters. We need to stay connected to that source. That, of course, there's the holy name, there's Krishna, there's so many other features. But an essential principle is that connection. If we're not connected to the trunk of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the branch of Srila Prabhupada, we members of ISKCON will become useless. We'll go on for some time. But as Krishnadas Kaviraj says himself, gradually they dried up and simply scattered. Those are his exact words. They were useless, they dried up, and they simply scattered. We do not want that to happen to us individually or collectively. The world is depending on the Krishna consciousness movement. I was in Prabhupada's room one time and a man said, "Oh, Prabhupada, can you tell us some stories of Krishna's Leela, Krishna's incarnations?" And Prabhupada said, this ISKCON movement is an incarnation of Krishna, and he's come again to save the world. He's come again to save the world. Doesn't mean ISKCON doesn't have faults and can't improve. I'm not trying to slap a happy face on everything. But the importance of the mission, of delivering it, the mission is so important. And the conditioned souls are crying. Therefore, we need, in order to be able to accomplish the job, to not become useless, not to dry up, but to bear fruits, we have to stay connected to the tree, and that means to the branch of Srila Prabhupada. So that's the setup or the premise. Let's say this. There's a tape, and a reporter is asking Prabhupada, why did you come to America? And Prabhupada's response is sublime. Prabhupada says, well, some of my god brothers, they were sent to London, to England, and they couldn't accomplish anything. They failed. I'm quoting Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, and some god brother went to Sweden, and he also failed. God brother went to Germany, and he also failed. So England was out, Sweden's out, Germany's out. Prabhupada said, I thought, well, if I'm going to fail, let me fail in a new place. That was Prabhupada's humility. If he's going to fail, at least he can say, well, I tried a new place and it didn't work out. But the fact of the matter is that Prabhupada was a transcendental strategist. It's confirmed that he was the Senapata Bhakta, the great general sent by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as predicted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Prabhupada was trying to get his movement going, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission in England, in India. We know Prabhupada finally had a league of devotees in Jhansi, and he was kicked out by the mayor's wife for the women's league. So, and Prabhupada was saying, you have so many sons. He'd go to some, Vaishnav families. You have so many. Just give me one son. I'll train him as a nice Bhagavatam preacher. But none of them were interested. So everyone was looking to the West, and the apex of the West, certainly in those days, in the late 60s and early 70s, was America. America was the paragon of everyone wanted to be made in America. So Prabhupada's strategy was, let me go to America, make some American Vaishnavas, and then send them around the world, and it will turn the world. Everyone's chasing America. America's chasing Krishna. That will change the world. And that's what Prabhupada did. It was his transcendental strategy, and it actually worked. So it is an amazing thing. Prabhupada said there were so many editions of Bhagavad Gita in America. I think Prabhupada even gives a number. I forget what they did. So, dozens and dozens of them. Prabhupada said they didn't make one single devotee. I remember being with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. We were on the campus, Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. And Vishnu John was singing. So we were standing at some distance, just talking and appreciating the scene, blissful scene. Prasadam distribution. You can picture on nice pandal, Vishnu John, Swami, college students. Very sweet scene. And this maybe 40-year-old man came up to us and introduced himself. And he was a professor of religions on the campus, one of the professors. So Tamal asked him, have you read Bhagavad Gita? And the man said, definitely, I've read Bhagavad Gita. And Tamal asked him, well, did you understand it? The man was shocked. Well, he's a professor. Of course I understood it. Then Tamal asked him, so what are you going to do? You've read it. You've understood it. What are you going to do? And you watch this puzzlement come over the man's face. The idea that the Bhagavad Gita was a call to practical action. Sarvadharma parityaja, mommy, you just become my devotee. So the man was shocked. But Prabhupada's Gita and Prabhupada, how to become a devotee, that we should surrender to Krishna and become Krishna's devotees. It doesn't matter what capacity, as a householder or sannyasi or businessman, whatever. It was a shock to this man. So Prabhupada, the point is that Prabhupada came to America Prabhupada tells a story. Actually, I heard this from Achyutananda, that there was in Calcutta, there was a Tarun Kanti Ghosh, and evidently, Tarun Kanti Ghosh, he was owned a bunch of local language newspapers in India. And his grandfather was a disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so he was coming in a Vaishnava line. But he'd been to see some yogi. Now, we know there's so many cheaters, but let's give credit. This is a genuine yogi. He'd been to see the Tarun Kanti Ghosh in Calcutta, telling Prabhupada that he'd been to see this yogi, and the yogi had zoop. He'd made a beautiful apple, nice German apple. And the man was, Tarun Kanti Ghosh was going on, oh, there was no apple, then there was an apple, and he was just wearing a gamcha, nothing up his sleeves. It was no sleight of hand. Apple, 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 made an apple, made an apple. The man was so impressed. And Srila Prabhupada, although the standard of humility, to teach the man and get through his head that, hang on a minute, Prabhupada said, I came to America with nothing. Prabhupada had 40 rupees, which you couldn't even convert in America. He had the $20 that he'd gotten by selling a set of Bhagavatams to the captain of the Jaladuta. But for all intents and purposes, Prabhupada's not in the best health. He didn't have any connections, didn't have any money, any resources behind, all alone. So Prabhupada presented, that was my condition. And I sat down in Tompkins Square Park, and I simply began to chant. One pair of kartals, simply began to chant. And Prabhupada said, and from that chanting, so many devotees came. So many books came. So many beautiful deities came. So many festivals, Ratha Yatra. Prabhupada said, so many temples all over the world. Now remember, the man was apple, apple, apple. What a mystical thing. The man made one apple. So Prabhupada said, simply from that chanting, books, temples, deities, he said, so many temples have come. And then Prabhupada said, and in every temple, there are so many apples. Apple halava, apple salad, apple, So to make one apple, oh, that's something mystical. Oh, must be Bhagavan, must be God. But that Srila Prabhupada came all alone to a foreign culture and spread temples, made American devotees, and sent it all around the world. It is an absolutely mystical thing. I mean, now, if you're second generation and, whatever, third generation, you accept it, it. Here it is. Okay, it's always, but it was a wasteland. Prabhupada was completely running against the current of the times. And yet, by the empowerment of Krishna and his pure surrender, it's a mystical thing. Prabhupada's walking in, I forget the name of it, Cross Madan, I'm not sure, but in Calcutta. And there's a park, and they're walking past the Victoria Memorial. You can Google it when you have a chance. It's like 160 feet tall, figured that's at least 10, 12 stories. And they were building the thing. And this is Prabhupada explaining, when he was a young boy, he was walking and they were building it. And there was all the, that bamboo scaffolding, how it's all lashed together and, creaks. And so Prabhupada, as a young boy, he climbed up that scaffolding, 160 feet to the top of the thing. So he's on a morning walk. Prabhupada's explaining how he did this as a boy, climbed at the top of the Victoria Memorial. And one of the devotees, you can hear the tape, one of the devotees say, Prabhupada, you must have been so brave. And then Srila Prabhupada says, and I'm still brave. Otherwise, how have I come to your country all alone? So this Prabhupada's humility, let me fail in a new place, then again his transcendental strategy, let me try to turn America with no resources, no contacts, but his bravery and his surrender to Krishna and dependence and his firm faith in the order of his spiritual master. So we should have the attitude of gratitude. That's my point. That's Vaisheshika Prabhu's but that sense of gratitude. I'll give you another example. Prabhupada, what does it mean that Prabhupada delivered us? He created ISKCON. I remember in Los Angeles, when I first moved in the Laguna Beach Temple, then up to Los Angeles, we didn't have a morning program. We stayed out late at night, usually on Hari Nam, and it's a whole story. And we would get up maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, something like that. I knew that there was Mangalarti because if you went out to get the flowers at the LA flower market, you had to go early, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And when you came back, Shilavati, the head pujari, would give you some sweets. We think, well, what are these sweets? Oh, they come from Mangalarti. We knew that there was some ceremony that went on. Shilavati often all alone, worshiping the little Radhakrishna deities. So the point is, then Prabhupada sent a letter. Prabhupada said, this is the morning program. And he described 4:30 in the morning and chanting japa, Bhagavata, laid the whole, we were shocked. That's a whole story. We had devotees falling asleep, Vishnu John Swami falling asleep playing a harmonium. But Prabhupada said this is a bulwark against Maya. Just like you have a dike and it's holding back the ocean there, the North Sea or whatever it is. You remove that dike and the Netherlands, called the lowlands, they become flooded. So Prabhupada said this will hold back Maya, this morning program. Prabhupada says if you shut off a light, you don't have to call for darkness. It comes automatically. It's the absence of light. So without the standards that Srila Prabhupada gave us, they are holding back Maya. So if you read in the Nectar of Devotion, there's the 5 principles. There's 64, and they can be reduced to 32. They can be reduced, and ultimately, Rupa Goswami says there are 5 bedrock principles, and it's living in a holy place, worshiping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, chanting the holy name. These 5 are essential nutrients, nutritional forces, or cornerstones of the house of bhakti. And Prabhupada perfectly crafted that in ISKCON. So he came alone, so brave, and he created ISKCON, and he created this as a medium to develop and protect our spiritual life. So that gratitude for what Prabhupada gave us. Here's another example. I was in, this was in Henry Street. I forget the year. Janaballabha was the temple president, so you can calculate by that time. And Prabhupada came, and of course, every devotee east of the Mississippi showed up. And the Brooklyn temple was a brownstone, I forget, 3 or 4 stories with a basement. Devotees sleeping on the roof, devotees sleeping on the fire, literally sleeping on the fire escape. There was a little garden back of Srila Prabhupada's quarters. Not very big, I don't know what, maybe 10 feet by 20 feet, something like that. Little grass lawn, little sitting garden. And because it was summertime and the windows were open, and devotees were chit-chatting there, it was a distraction. So the temple president, or Bali Mardana, I forget who it was, said, listen, we've got to keep it quiet for Prabhupada, and we want to have a guard posted there to keep people out so they're not chit-chatting and making noise. So I volunteered. So many other devotees volunteered. I had the 1 o'clock to, I think, 3 o'clock a.m. shift. So I'm out there, and remember, this is a key point. My mission was my goal was to keep any noise, keep it quiet so no one disturbed Prabhupada. So I'm sitting out there, and it was about 1:30. I'm quietly chanting japa. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada comes into his darshan room and clicks on the light. And when it's dark outside and there's a light inside, you can see very easily. So I could see right in, clear as a bell. And I was thinking, well, Prabhupada can't see me. If it's light, if it's dark outside and you have the light in, you really can't see too far. So I was anonymous, I thought. So I'm sitting there, and I watched as Prabhupada began his translating work. And I saw him, he looked at the Sanskrit work that Pradyumna had done, the translation and the word for word. He checked it, he made a few corrections. And then he started to do his translating work. And I watched Prabhupada lean back and think about it, read the verse, and then I watched him pick up his dictaphone and began to speak. And he said a few sentences. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but you guys could hear his voice. And then I saw him pull down his Bhagavatam with 5 different commentaries and look up something, and then he spoke some more. And then I saw him reach back, and the books were behind him on the book. I saw him pull Chaitanya Charitamrita, he opened it up, then he said some more. And I saw him pulling so many books off the shelf. And I was thinking that all of the words of the previous acharyas are coming into Prabhupada's transcendental brain. And Prabhupada's putting them on the page just perfectly for modern time and modern man, modern people. And I was thinking, this is amazing. So I was chanting softly. And as like all the waters, rivers, they start, the glaciers melt and they flow into the streams, and the streams flow into the different rivers, and they all flow in the Ganga, and they all flow into the ocean. I was thinking all these shastras, all these realizations of the different acharyas are all flowing into Prabhupada's mind and flowing onto the pages of his Bhaktivedanta purports. So remember, my mission was to be quiet. So I was chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And as I thought about this, what a wonderful thing it is, I started Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. And then I thought, and all I have to do, all the words of the previous charyas, perfectly presented, and all I have to do is open Prabhupada's books. It's right there for me. Everything I need to know. So I was Hare Krishna, I was thinking, in my own little neophyte way, I was feeling very happy. So I was actually chanting pretty loudly, at which point Prabhupada took the glass of water on his desk, threw it out the window all over me. It was like, you throw a boot at a cat or something. Hey, I'm working here, I was thinking, oh, Abhishekam, But the fact of what everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books, perfectly presented from all the previous acharyas, how hard Srila Prabhupada worked. Harikesh told me, and I heard the same story from Ramaswamy. But Harikesh told me, I shared with some devotees, and I was there. He said that he was Prabhupada's servant at a particular point in time in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada's house, his darshan room is there, and there's that little anteroom in front where, Swami Prabhupada's secretary would sit and greet guests and think, and sort of keep Prabhupada from being disturbed or, whatever it is. He was the receptionist. So it was early in the morning. I don't know the time, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And Harikesh thought, because sometimes Prabhupada at those early hours would call in his servant. Harisari says that one time Prabhupada, Shruti Kirti, I forget, rang the bell. He came in, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Prabhupada says, see this bug here? He's been trying to climb up on the desk. I've been watching him. And he's climbing, falling. He must be very tired. Prabhupada broke off a little piece of sandesh from his desk and said, take this sandesh, pick him up, and take him outside. Prabhupada was feeling, commiserating his poor little, give him a little Mahaprasadam and let him go. So Prabhupada, sweet pastimes early in the morning, that's my point. He would call you in sometimes, talk about his early days and Gaudiya Math or whatever. So Harikesh thought, let me let Prabhupada know that I'm awake. So he was ostensibly cleaning that front room, but he moving the furniture and the chair, but deliberately making a little noise so Prabhupada would know he was up and invite him in, and he would get some sweet nectar. Well, sure enough, Prabhupada called him in. But when Prabhupada called him in, Prabhupada said, why are you making so much noise? Please don't make so much noise. And then Prabhupada said, you have to understand that I have to choose each word so carefully. Prabhupada said, because these books will stand as the law books for humankind for the next 10,000 years. These books will stand as the law books for humankind for the next 10,000 years. So how hard Srila Prabhupada labored to give us his books, to craft this institution. There should be an attitude of gratitude. Ganga Prasad told me. Actually, Ganga Prasad's father, this is 1973, 74, 75. So when I first went to India, 73, everybody shops. I was the temple president, buying dhotis and saris for the devotees. I'm at Ganga Prasad's. And somehow or other, I struck up a conversation with the father. He was an old man at the time. Now he's passed away a long time ago. Somehow or other, we became friendly. So he would sit in the back of his shop. Somebody misquoted a price, he'd catch it immediately. But he was mostly just chanting japa sitting in the back. And we would chit chat about this and that. And he told me one day, he said, your Swamiji, he was not like the others. I say, what do you mean? He said, well, the others, and I don't mean to criticize, but just for sake of comparison. He said, so many other so-called sadhus or even whatever, they come and they sit and chit chat and gossip in the Loy Bazaar, and they read the newspaper and they, whatever. He said, but your Swamiji, when he would come we wouldn't see him. Then every few days he would come, buy a few vegetables, he'd be gone. Or he'd come, buy a typewriter, he'd be gone. He was not loitering around. He was, fixed in and out. So Ganga Prasad, the old man, said, I thought, what's he up to? Maybe he's got some woman he's keeping, or he's going home to listen to cricket, So he followed Prabhupada home. He told me the story personally. And Prabhupada was staying at the time at the Vangsi Gopal temple. And Ganga Prasad got under the window, and he was listening because he thought he'd hear the radio or he'd hear some woman's voice. He said, all I heard was type, 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 type. I came back in the evening, type, 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 type. I came back the next day, early in the morning, type, type, type. He said, your Guru Maharaj was working day and night to produce these books. So Prabhupada worked day and night to write the Bhagavatam, to write his books. He with the bravery of the most courageous, came to America. He crafted ISKCON in Detroit. We were sitting in Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada said, I've given you the structure. He said, just go and decorate it. And then Prabhupada said, actually, I've given you the decorations. Just go and hang them. So Prabhupada has given us everything we need. He's perfectly crafted his books, and he's crafted his ISKCON and his ISKCON program. It is not for the blue-collar wing of the Vaishnava society. We just work hard. This is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radharani's bringing all the gopis so they can also serve Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how to bring he's Vishvambar, how to bring all the conditioned souls to the lotus feet of service of Krishna. And that is the mood of ISKCON. And it's perfectly exemplified and crafted by ISKCON, by Srila Prabhupada. So if we don't stay under the shelter of Prabhupada's instructions, Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's sadhana standards, if we don't stay under that, we become like those useless, Krishnadas Kaviraj's word, useless followers of Advaita Acharya who break off from the main branch and from the trunk, and they dry up and they don't bear fruit. So it is existential, essential importance that we keep Prabhupada as the preeminent Siksha Guru, and that we read his books and practice them. It'll be good for us and good for everyone else in the world. So there it is. Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, you want to? Oh, one other thing. Now some people say that, this is, you're a Prabhupada disciple, you got so much mercy. One could ask, have I actually taken full advantage of that mercy? But frankly, that's not really an accurate statement. And let me ask you this. If we want to know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what do we do? Well, there's so many, but the apex study, the PhD study of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Chaitanya Charitamrita, confirmed by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, it was his favorite book. Whenever he got a little extra time, Prabhupada said he'd read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, who wrote Chaitanya? If we want to know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, who wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita? Krishnadas Kaviraj, as we said earlier. Now, here's the question. Was Krishnadas Kaviraj a direct associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? No. He was a disciple. He was a grand disciple. He was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj was a grand disciple. And yet we go to that grand disciple for the deepest understanding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the similar fashion, all of Prabhupada's followers, first generation, but now I'm talking second generation, third generation, nth generation, they have an intimate, direct relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Don't worry, I'm not going Rithik on you. It's just like if I'm seeing the screen or I'm seeing you or whatever, I put my glasses on, it comes into focus. We need to have a living spiritual master who, although the experience is direct, brings it into focus. We have to take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master to train us. Don't, go mental on it. But the fact remains that Prabhupada said, after that huge Christmas marathon, the first big Christmas marathon, Ramaswar read the scores, Prabhupada wrote to the devotees, and he said, I am accepting you all as coming from my Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada said, the grandfather is even more merciful than the father. And Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj is pouring his mercy down on you. The grandfather was pouring the mercy down on the grand disciple, the grandchildren. So Prabhupada's mercy is flowing through ISKCON, flowing through his books, flowing to everyone, to all of us. How many generations out? It doesn't. I know that there's devotees who have much deeper realization and much more surrendered, second generation, third generation than I do. So Prabhupada, keeping Prabhupada, it's not a historical figure, and therefore we learn he's actively pouring his mercy, if we take advantage of it, on anyone who reads his books and follows his instructions. So we can end there. Okay, Gopal. I hope I've earned my prasadam. I gave it my best shot.
Yes, you've earned your prasadam. I listened.
And maybe
carefully.
we're over time. I don't whatever.
No. We got a couple more minutes, and I'm going to just say that I listened very carefully to you, and I guess in my own words, my takeaway from what you said is that, I heard the word being grateful numerous times. I heard the whole branch of the tree, and that was graphic. I guess the biggest takeaway I ended up with was this, Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada, by his causeless mercy, gave us everything we need. And when we say us, we're talking about all members of ISKCON, regardless of what generation those members come to. And that we all have this rather direct relationship with our preeminent Siksha Guru. He's given us given us everything that we need.
Not only, yes, everything we need, but he's actually and we need Krishna, of course, but he's given us Krishna. He's given us pure devotional service. All we have to do is follow. I was in Prabhupada's room one time. He said, and you can help me with this, Gopal. Please touch your nose. It's Prabhupada's example. Oh, no. Then Prabhupada went like this. We make everything so complicated. Just touch your nose. Just Prabhupada has crafted it perfectly. Nothing has been left out. There's no, you got to get a higher understanding. Read the last chapters of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or the Antya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Talk about far beyond our pay grade, the most intimate Madhurya Ras. It's all there in Prabhupada's books. I read Prabhupada's books as much as I can, and I should read more. But I'm telling you, I've read Bhagavad Gita who knows how many times. Every time I open it, I see something new. Now Krishna's revealing more. Also, I'm growing. I'm maturing. I'm looking at from a different age or station in life. Prabhupada said it is like a jewel. Faceted, you turn it, it catches the light differently. So Prabhupada is an active principle in everyone's life from now on, preeminent Siksha Guru, an active principle and a source of mercy and enlivenment and shelter, as long as we simply read his books and follow his teachings. Okay.
Maharaj, thank you so much for all your
Thank you for doing it. Thank
realizations.
you and your
Really
team.
appreciate it. Hare Krishna. Glories
Thank
to
you for
Srila
this gift.
Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Gopal, and thank you to your team. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Bol.